What the hell is going on in Cincinnati? Today, we're going to be breaking down the Cincinnati Bengals 2025 season through a deep dive of looking at their draft class, their roster, as well as their records predictions. So, we're doing that all in one video. Let's jump right into this. Of course, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I know the series doesn't produce well at all in terms of views, but I know a lot of you guys appreciate it, and it's my way of kind of dipping my toes into the NFL because we want to be expanding there in the near future. But then we got to start out with the draft class, which is what we do. It's our bread and butter here on the show. We love the draft. And for those of y'all who are wondering when my defensive interior video is going to be coming out, it will be next week. And honestly, I've actually just finished watching the players. It's all about graphics time now. But starting out with the first overall pick, we have Shemar Stewart. And this is a hot one. This is the reason why I said, what the hell is going on? Because it's all about some BS with the ownership, based on people who I know, having just difficulties with certain clauses in the contract, certain guarantees. And we've seen a lot of those second round picks who kind of had similar issues with, some guarantees and stuff, being able to get through that. We haven't seen that with this organization. Now, I don't know how reliable my boy Slick Rick is. Love the guy to death. I mean, maybe there is some truth to it. I mean, he's been right far more than he's been wrong. But he ends up saying that, there's still at least getting close to a deal with Trey Hendrickson. If that ends up going through, I think there's a lot more momentum for Shemar Stewart. But yeah, it's a whole entire shit show. I know a lot of people were telling me as well that, people just don't like his agent. It is what it is. Personally, I think he should have went with a different agent. If people don't like the person that's representing you, you're probably not going to be able to be in the best situation, but I digress. Shemar Stewart's a great talent. This is one of the situations that I definitely thought he fit, and I think he needed to go to a fit or else he would end up being a bust. I think there's too much of a bust factor with him. This is one of those locations where even though recently y'all haven't really truly fully developed the edge core, I still think that Shemar Stewart has a better chance based on those athletic foundational traits and with Al Golden coming into the room. In the second round, you still are on defense and go Demetrius Knight Jr. He's a seasoned veteran. That's perfectly fine. I mean, getting quality linebacker play is very difficult in the NFL nowadays. It's just not many good linebacking cores. A lot of people just trying to piece it together. Demetrius was one of the better linebackers in this past draft. So I think it was still early, but it's perfectly fine. If you really wanted to go for it, go for it. But in the third round, you drafted Dylan Fairchild. I'm a huge fan of Dylan Fairchild as like a fifth round pick. I had no idea he would be a third round pick. That was absolutely mind boggling to me. To me, he was, I said, the Trevor Keegan of this past draft class, which is like one in a really, really high floor backup that you should start if you need to, but it just is there. If your starter goes down, you feel comfortable with someone who could fill in, but probably don't want him there full time. To me, that could be a third round pick, but I really do think that, to be fair, the Bengals, y'all have not had a very good interior offensive line for a hot minute, so it is still an upgrade, but I just don't see it as a legitimate upgrade in terms of the value making sense for the acquisition. But I mean, again, if you're just looking at it outside of the pick itself or the pick value, it's an upgrade. He's the starter right now. Then you have Barrett Carter at pick number 119. I just didn't see linebacker as the position to target. There were a lot of offensive linemen that continued to slip in this draft, and I'm very surprised y'all didn't try to go after more. Even though you went after two, I still was like, I still thought maybe you could even go after a tight end. Still thought you could go after maybe a slot receiver because I love Yosef, but we'll talk about the current roster in a second. I still thought there were some positions that felt a bit neglected, but Barrett Carter to me, that was somebody who I think I'd prefer in like the sixth round as well. Then you go to Jalen Rivers at pick number 153, and Jalen Rivers might have been one of my favorite picks this draft. Taj Brooks, Jalen Rivers, and Shemar Stewart probably my top three, but Jalen Rivers has 35-inch arms. He actually did not do horribly as a tackle, and this is me watching him very recently versus some other edge rushers as well. I thought that he actually is not too shabby. And then you, again, see the measurables. He is strong. He's powerful. You can end up using him as a guard. If in 3 years, Jalen Rivers finds a way to have a better situation or better standing than Dylan Fairchild, it would not blow my mind. But at the same time, Jalen Rivers also has that floor that is very, very low because not the most athletic guy in the world transitioning from tackle to guard. Taj Brooks at pick number 193 is the last pick of the draft for y'all. And Taj Brooks is just such a high floor player. I really do like the move. I believe he was like top 10 to 15 for me. I think he was in that range rather than just into the top 10, but still a very good player. A lot of tread lost on those tires. But I mean, it's just somebody who's going to be a really reliable backup, especially with Zach Moss up for a contract. This is probably going to be a 3 to 4 year player that you have as really high quality depth, which is actually a good thing to have, especially in the 6th round. So, I mean, I really loved the Shamar Stewart pick when it happened. This is pretty much imported directly from my initial reactions. And, Shamar Stewart, I do think if for some reason the owner doesn't continue to fuck shit up, he's going to be a really good asset. If you continue to have these issues, obviously he's not my favorite pick. But then, of course, with Barrett Carter, it's just the redundancy of Demetrius Knight. And then it's like you didn't get bad players. Like all these players have talent in their own right, but it just was very underwhelming in a division where there was a lot of pretty damn solid drafts. But let's look at the offense here. We're going to go from skill position to line to skill position for the defense. Again, not in order of priority, but just the way I do things here. Joe Burrow needs no introduction. He is the GOAT. I love him to death. I mean, he's a really good player. I mean, I don't love him to death in terms of being a Steelers fan, but in terms of being a fan of the NFL, I think he really does elevate the game in a way that not many people try to give him credit for. Chase Brown, so fun to watch. I really liked him at Illinois. So, it's good to see him being able to survive here in the NFL and be able to carve out that starting role, especially with Zach Moss. I mean, you also look at Taj Brooks in that room, Samaje Perine as well, new addition, like good group of guys. I don't think that it is part of the bottom half of the NFL, undoubtedly, in terms of the running back room. But again, we're getting to the point where that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you guys still have a good running back core. You're not to the point where it's like, is running back in the 1st round or bust? Like the Bears, I feel are in a worse situation, which we'll be talking about them probably next. Or actually, we already did talk about them. But anywho, I do think that your running back room, even though it's a relatively underwhelming, still has a good amount of talent to where I feel relatively comfortable. Looking at the receiving core, I mean, Jamar Chase, people will debate whether he's 1 or 2. Who gives a damn? You guys have one of the top 2 receivers in the NFL. The other one was his teammate, who was also Joe Burrow's teammate. Like, that LSU team is ludicrous, man. But Jamar Chase, I mean, really good player. Like, just a damn good receiver. I still remember people trying to clown him in the preseason of his rookie year because he had a couple drops. And it's like, this guy hasn't played football for a year. Give him a little bit of time. And I'm glad I wasn't one of those who overreacted off the bat because it's just like, Jamar Chase is just mind-bogglingly talented. Then you re-sign T. Higgins, and, I'm not the biggest T guy on planet Earth. I mean, at a certain point, you got to put money where money needs to be put. I personally, based on how your receiving core is built, I don't disagree because personally, I'm looking at what's behind T. Higgins. Currently, technically, if you're looking at right wide receiver, it's Jermaine Burton. But you also look at Kendrick Pryor. That is the next boundary receiver. That's a big reason why I'm like, why the hell did y'all not go after receiver in the draft? One of the deepest receiving drafts. So it is like really confusing to me, really confusing. So I understand why you brought back T. Higgins. I think it was a must. And we are at the point where people are like, oh my God, TJ Watt just got paid. And I know I'm going to get some flack for this. I'm going on Broshmo's show tomorrow, but it's just, that's how the world works. This is how the league works. When somebody, whether they truly deserve it or not, is up for debate. But when somebody who is that caliber, that level of identity of your offense or defense has a contract that's up, you pay them because someone else is going to pay them that amount too. So just like, do you want to deal with moving the numbers around? Or do you want to deal with the drop-off? Have you set yourself up? And I think that the Bengals set themselves up significantly worse than the Steelers would have if they ended up losing their top asset that they just paid over $40 million versus obviously T. Higgins, who just got paid. So I do think that the drop-off after T. Higgins, the opportunity cost is way too much, especially if you guys are trying to win an actual Super Bowl. So I understand it, but I do think that there are other areas in the team that really do still need a lot more investment. But slot receiver Andre Yosevos, I'm not the biggest guy on him. Charlie Jones, honestly, is not a bad slot two. I just again, it's really really weak. I'm talking about the running back core being kind of like top weak because I mean Chase Brown's a good back, but we're not talking about him as a top 10 back. We're talking about Jamar Chase, T Higgins being like arguably the number one wide receiver duo, and then it's just like it's a perfect antithesis: Jamar Chase, T Higgins, and then pretty much nobody. And it's like Chase Brown, Zach Moss, Taj Brooks. Like there's a good amount of depth there versus the wide receiver position, which is very scary. You look at the tight end position, Gesicki. Excited. Nice to see that. Drew Sample as well. Obviously, he was drafted in the second round. Never lived up to that potential, in my opinion. But you also have Eric All, who I really liked. Just, of course, injury history has been brutal for him. And then you got like Tanner Hudson behind that. But, I mean, overall, I mean, you still have a really solid weaponry core. Like, you do still have good running back depth and top end offensive weapons. The issue for that comes in maybe the fourth quarter or maybe like the late third quarter where, your guys are starting to get a little bit gassed, but most importantly, when injuries come up. So you really do have to pray for a clean bill of health in one of the most physical divisions in the NFL. That's very tough to do. But let's talk about the offensive line because that's kind of dealt a little bit more of the injury blows to Joe Burrow, which has been a little bit more of an effect than maybe injuries to anywhere else. Starting with that left tackle spot, Orlando Brown Jr. I mean, Orlando Brown was a solid pickup. I mean, it's just it's better than you had. And then right behind him is Jalen Rivers listed right now per Our Lads. Of course, based on how he was playing reps at the Senior Bowl that I got to see him in person, he's definitely looked at as a flexible piece. Then you got Dylan Fairchild at that left guard spot, third round pick. Again, an upgrade, but not somebody who is on the tier of like Tate Ratledge, who is his teammate who got drafted about half of a round earlier. Then we have at center Ted Karras, up for a contract this year. It's always good to see that, but someone who I want to mention is Matt Lee. I loved Matt Lee, and he doesn't necessarily fit the way that, I mean, I know my Bengals fans have had their gripes about that too, but Matt Lee is one of my favorite players. I think he was my interior offensive lineman 12 in the year before, so in the 2024 NFL draft. Really love Matt Lee. You guys took him in the 7th round. In my opinion, I think I would prefer to keep him or like let Ted Karras go and just give him a shot, especially with Jalen Rivers on the team. It shows you have some affinity for the Miami Hurricanes offensive line. Then you go to Lucas Patrick as well at right guard, 1-year contract. Again, when you're seeing like the Browns get Tevin Jenkins and like stash him on the bench, it is a little bit annoying when you go after Lucas Patrick instead. So I will say I lament for y'all, but I mean it is an issue. I mean I was as a joke put ownership for both the offense and defense as a worst unit. Right guard probably to me, right guard or even slot, but heavily focused on the right guard. That'd be the worst unit for me or the worst position. Then at right tackle, you got Marius Mims, former first-round pick. I mean, the dude's an absolute beast, still growing, still learning, but definitely has had his moments where we all knew he could end up being a true standout tackle. So let's continue on, though. I mean, again, good offense off the bat. I mean, you're upgrading the interior of the offensive line as much as you can. You're not, but you're trying, and that's a good start. Let's talk about the defense here. Starting out with that defensive line and going to those skilled positions. I did not put in an MVP. It is Trey Hendrickson, as you guys know. Trey is coming up on a contract as well. That's been kind of the talk of the town. But, we'll see if he ends up getting that extension or not. They did give him a deadline to find a trade, and he could not do it because, I think the Bengals outpriced everyone. But you look at the other edge room or the other edge rushers in the room. You got Joseph Asai. I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious. It's going to be Shamar Stewart when he ends up finally, or when the organization finally backs down and ends up getting the deal done. Miles Murphy as well. Sucks to see him just totally tank. And it really was a big drop off from, I think it was 2023 draft. Seeing him go, I'm double checking if he's 2023 draft. Yeah, he was. So 2022, well, actually, no, that was the year that he played into the 2023 draft. 2021 year, dude was ludicrous. And then he just took a massive step back. I don't know why he hasn't been able to accommodate to the NFL, but I'm hoping he does. Really hoping he does. But, you look at the defensive interior, BJ Hill, TJ Slayton. I mean, he's backed up by a second and third round pick, though, and Chris Jenkins Jr. and McKinley Jackson. You also have even Howard Cross in there. I love seeing him go and being able to work with Al Golden. And that's such a big thing. Al Golden hasn't really had top end edge rushing talent. So it's going to be intriguing to see if he can develop edge rushing talent. He actually just makes do with them very well. And then he does a very good job of maximizing defensive interior play. So, I mean, whether it's Riley Mills, whether it's Howard Cross, who's on the team, I really am excited to see if, new addition TJ Slayton, BJ Hill, along with the depth that you have at defensive interior, you're going to be able to make a difference because I really do like that. Then you look at the linebacking core here. You got Logan Wilson. In my opinion, I'm a huge fan. And then Demetrius Knight, and I already made my claims about him. He's a solid starting linebacker. Forgot to color him green. Whoop-de-fucking do. But, I always make one or two coloring mistakes in an episode. That's just, to me, colors do not matter. I am a male. I let my girlfriend deal with that stuff. But, Demetrius Knight's still a really solid linebacker. Like, it's just, I also thought it was a little bit early in the second round. If you guys get a true starter and ends up being a high floor player like Demetrius Knight, should end up working out. Looking at the secondary, you have Geno Stone, who definitely has not panned out the way that y'all wanted. Sucks. But, there's still some Geno Stone in there that I think we all want to just see come out. Jordan Battle, good to see him listed as the number one. I mean, he's a super high floor, strong safety. So we'll see if he ends up living up to a true starter potential. I do think that he's good to have in a room nonetheless. You look at the corner room, I almost debated putting him as my most terrified position, but with Josh Newton in the mix, I thought that he did a fantastic job. And he was somebody who I liked coming into the 2024 season and then 2023 season, 2024 draft season. And, he ended up being okay in 2024 and in 2023, but he's been better in the NFL than I honestly anticipated. So it's good on them. Good on you guys for being able to utilize that talent. Cam Taylor-Britt, obviously he's been a roller coaster. DJ Turner, I mean, it is one of the weaker corner cores in the NFL. You toss Dax Hill in there, who, I mean, he should be kind of a nickel. He's a flexible piece. I just personally am a little bit underwhelmed by your secondary. Feel free to push back, by the way. I mean, again, you guys are fans of one team. I'm a fan of 32. I personally have seen a lot of the Bengals. I do not think that the defense is the terrifying part outside of how Trey Hendrickson's been able to, wreak some havoc. And then Logan Wilson, especially. I really like those two specifically. But outside of that, I'm not really terrified the way that I am of your offense. But let's see how that materializes into wins and losses with the 2025 season prediction. And we're in with the Bengals record. It is cumulative, so if you guys do want to hear a little bit more thought process on the games that already happened, feel free to go and check those videos out. But I do have an early sneaky win by the Browns in week number 1, and that's not because I think the Browns are a better team. First off, we've seen through history, y'all do randomly struggle for the first week to 3 weeks. It just happens. You guys are a team that builds up momentum and then are an unstoppable freight train by the time playoffs start. So I understand that. And also, it's possible. I mean, again, we're talking about the Browns here. If Joe Flacco has a hot start, which he is a veteran, he could end up having one of those games, and it's week 1. Remember the Jaguars in then when they won one game, it was week number 1 versus Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts, who were a far superior team when people actually got to look and see them in a little bit more rhythmic action. And week number 2, we have the Jaguars coming to town, and they are a good team, but they have organizational change. It's pretty obvious. You're going up to Cincy. Got to win your home opener, and especially when it's like that. At week number 3, though, you end up going and seeing Brian Flores, and here's my issue. Amari Smith's still developing, but he's still a good tackle. I don't really worry about the edge pressure, even though I do think their defensive line, especially the edges, outmatch your tackles. I still think the tackles can hold up their own. What I worry about is that interior of the offensive line. You have a rookie at left guard, and in my opinion, not really a good center/guard combo on the right side. And this is a team that just invested a ton of money and a ton of talent on the interior. You also add into the fact that, even though you have a really good receiving core, the Vikings have some defensive back talent, I'm trying to say. And I think this is a game where they're going to try to come guns blazing. I mean, Kevin Stefanski was able to win a lot of games with Sam Darnold. And it's not because Sam Darnold was the best player since sliced bread. I mean, he did an amazing job. I'm not trying to take anything away from Sam Darnold. What I'm trying to say is that Kevin Stefanski can make games challenging regardless. So I'm going to be giving this game to the Vikings. I do think that it's certainly a toss-up, but again, I do think that their offense is superior. Their offensive line is superior at the moment. But most importantly, especially since you have a new defensive coordinator coming from college, there are going to be growing pains. And speaking of growing pains, you're going to be in the bright lights, which Joe Burrow shines when the lights shine brightest. So I really like that about him. He is a star, but you're going up against one of the most vaunted secondaries now in the NFL. I mean, they ended up getting Jahdae Barron as just a fuck it, we're going to toss him into the deal, essentially. Like, this is a team that is consistent, and they're going to be brutal. The lights are going to be shining bright. Sean Payton also does. He also steps up to the occasion. I do think it's going to be a pretty rough start to the year, as it is damn near every freaking year. It's just how y'all roll. But we're going to have a couple of home wins. We're going to have a home win stretch here because I like the Lions. I think they are a better team than you. I also think you guys will have a chip on your shoulder, and it's going to be put up or shut up time. That matters. And for a team that's still having new coordinators, trying to work things out, I do think that there is going to be a little bit of an opportunity for you to be able to take advantage. And then you face a Green Bay team that's coming off a bye week at home at Lambeau. I'm going to give that to y'all. We're actually going to go full, like until the bye week at 10, we're going to go full home stretch right here, not an away team winning, because you're facing the Jets. I mean, I already did this in my Steelers video. Technically, the Steelers, in my opinion, kind of are a better team, but I will say the lack of safety presence scares the shit out of me for what Jamar Chase could do. We'll see what happens, but I do think the Steelers could be a dark horse team to sweep. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but people act like, oh, we're just going to, be 10, like 9-8 again. And maybe we will, but we're going to be a fucking pain in the ass in all those games. It's not going to be a cakewalk like we had when, whether it was Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett. I mean, even if Aaron Rodgers is 30% of what he once was, he is still better. Like, we still got an upgrade. So you might not see more wins or losses, which I think you could for the Steelers. But what you are seeing is those wins/losses being a lot less likely or a lot less probable, especially the losses. It's going to be a lot more difficult. Now, for the Jets, I think they're a team that's absolutely god-awful. When you have Justin Fields as your starting quarterback, I love Justin Fields, but he has yet to prove that he's a true starting quarterback. He got paid $20 million a year for a reason. Now, the Steelers are a run-heavy defensive identity. The Jets haven't really fully established that run game yet, but are a pretty defensive identity. Their coach Aaron Glenn is going to be great for them. But again, when you're facing a team coming off a mini bye in the Bengals, who are going to have a lot more tenured experience at the high end level, especially at the quarterback position, I will be giving that to them. You face the Bears at home. This is actually a game I would almost be tilting towards the Bears the more I think about it. The way that they can end up overwhelming you in terms of just actual offensive talent. I'm going to swing back to this game. We'll see about it, but I am debating tossing this one back to the Bears. But you guys end up facing the Steelers at home, or excuse me, away at Acrisure Field. I always want to call it Heinz, which it should always be Heinz. I understand it's brand deals, but it will always be Heinz in my heart based on the fact that I grew up with it. But you guys are coming off a bye week. I always respect teams that are going to be competitive coming off a bye. I like to do that. But at week number 12, you end up facing the Patriots. They're coming off a mini bye. But I will actually give the nod to the Bengals here. And the more I think about it, the more I sit on it, I do think Ben Johnson is going to be far more divisive. And I do think the Bears have a noticeably better roster. So Bears fans, which maybe one or two of you, shout out to Jeff. I know Jeff Page likes to watch these. I'll give you guys a shout. I mean, it's just, they are a good roster. They are a good team. They should be making the playoffs. You guys are kind of living on a little bit of the star power. You guys are sipping on the juice a little bit of your stars rather than your actual overall roster. So I'm being very generous by having you sweep the Steelers because I think it's going to be very scrappy, very tough. But you end up facing the Ravens and then you face the Bills, both of them at home. Not fun games. I'm surprised this game is actually not on primetime. I know that you guys are playing a primetime game versus the Ravens, but I do think Josh Allen and the Bills are far more complete and ready for the playoffs. And then you end up facing the Dolphins when the Dolphins are at home. This is a sneaky game because the Dolphins are, even though I have my issues with them, they are still a very solid team and they are investing. And so I'm going to say they sneak out a win because it's in Miami too. Miami's just a brutal spot to be in. But I do have you winning those final two games as well because the Cardinals, first off, they have talent, but they just haven't been able to put it together. You're also going to the AFC North in wintertime. It's going to be a bitch. I'm going to definitely lean towards a team that's a lot more comfortable with it. And then, of course, with the Browns, I think that they're not going to get so lucky two times in a row. They're not going to get the week one RNG. So where does that put us? 9-8. Now, I think that's actually pretty fair. People are going to be pissed because, well, actually, I gave you guys a better record than the Steelers. So there you go. I was going to say like, oh, the Steelers are above you, but no, I should put them up there, but I'm going to say for the time being, the Steelers are 9-8. You guys are 9-8. You guys squeak into the playoffs, which, technically speaking, Steelers got above you last time, but I'm going to leave it as is. Maybe I'll end up changing it sometime. But until then, thank you for watching. See you later. Peace.